All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. We have to do this every single time. So just give me a moment. Check Twitch as well. I've got my audio muted. Okay. We are live on Twitch. We are live on YouTube, I assume. Let's check Rumble. Usually you have to start the placeholder video, actually. And then at some point it collates the stream. Hopefully. We're hoping that that works. Good morning, America. Literally speaking, it's 10 a.m. Eastern time. Come on, you can take the stream. You know you want to. We're hoping that it's live anyway. Yes, we appear to be live on Rumble, which means I have to pause that, mute that as well. And we're in chat, of course. Vangor Palex 666. By the way, I will not be doing political commentary. This is a very special day. It's 2/22/22. It's time for some magic. It's time for some occultism. It's time for some memes. So yes, I will be mainly doing chats and super chats, of course. This is a super chat Q&A of sorts with regards to spiritual issues. Adonis Adams, is modernity an illusion? Yes, because in 100 years it won't be modern anymore. That's pretty straightforward. Make sure to share out the stream links to other people. That way we can see how many Biden loser units we're at, even without talking about politics and news. Yes, Sassy Scorpio 76 on Twitch. It is 2/22/22, and I don't think that happens again for a very, very long time. Because of course, 2033. Well, number one, it's a 2 before the 33. There is no March 33rd, so I don't know exactly when this will happen again. It'll be a while. HP Lovecraft. Happy Pluto return. Old Yoggoth is back, baby. Yeah, HP Lovecraft has a less dystopian view of the future than a lot of political commentators, I think, at this point. To all the people talking about politics and political issues in chat, though, this is not about politics. This is a special mimetic day. This is about spirituality. Kyle Vincent asking a question here. Do you think Anabaptists, Mennonites, Amish, and Hutterites could be using black magic? Actually, I think there's actually a work on their sort of superstition and folklore from the 19th century, if I remember correctly. I've glanced over it. I've never had a chance to read it in full or edit it. And that was one of the charges against them, that the idea of the Shakers and similar groups was black magic. No, I think that they're just a differentiated Christian group. The Dashing Rogue from the Silicon Valley. Good morning, Sticks. Question, thoughts on the traditional school of thought, Evola, Gunyan, etc.? They seem like globalists to me. Possibly. Haven't read as much Evola as I probably should have. When it comes to occultism, I'm more into Steiner, Rudolf Steiner, number one. I'm editing a couple of works, actually, initiatory works by him at the moment. And I like the Theosophical school, not so much because I agree with Theosophy, but it branched out into so many subfields. It just sort of makes sense. Some of the Hindi writings, of course, within, yogic system and things like that. And also just straight up black magic from the Renaissance, especially. One of the first works that I ever released that actually did well was the Grand Grimoire. So I know that it's a little bit beyond the pale. It's definitely on the side of spooky woo. And really, I mean, even for its time period, was filled with things that were a little bit on the odd sides, but still interesting. wonder how many people are watching on Rumble. Let me check this. I have to refresh it several times. And Rumble probably exploding with growth right now due to Truth Social launching, even if it's only for the Crapple users. Again, though, this is about spirituality and the occult, so we won't be talking about that as much. Let me see here. Takes a little time. Yeah, there are almost 50 people watching there, as well as a bunch on Twitch, actually. A fucking space marine. Praise Lucifer, the one true prince of light and emancipator of humanity. We can get into Lucifer, actually. Lucifer is just a bastardized term in Latin from the Greek phosphoros and actually refers to Jesus Christ in the Bible at several points. Also refers to a dead Babylonian king, Melchizedek or one of these others. Has nothing to do with Satan. So if you're talking about Satan and the Promethean sort of ideal, it wouldn't be Lucifer that you're talking about. The Happy Plague Doctor. What is a simple ritual one could do today to boost positive energy? To think more positively. That's the short answer. Just do something positive. You don't need to do any rituals for that sort of thing. Mr. X 1776. Sticks, isn't it funny? In Atlantis, orichalcum was the sacred metal. In America, it's brass. Yeah, kind of. Isn't orichalcum, I think, was actually an amalgamate of bronze that had been treated in certain ways. So it was a type of bronze that happened to be more strong, more resistant to corrosion, if I remember correctly. I think they delved into the Mediterranean and managed to recover some orichalcum ingots not long ago. Johnny Thunders. Here's to not watching the new Lord of the Rings series. Yeah, we could talk about the occultism of Middle Earth, actually, too. As in, none of it's authentic, a lot of it's Renaissance style. When we're talking about wizards with staffs and crystals and things like that, we're definitely talking about Renaissance era magical stereotypes. Nesquick, morning, Sticks. Well, good morning. JRS Parker on Twitch. Hi, Sticks. I just got a few of your books on Amazon. What do you recommend from your offerings? If you go to my books blogs, the Tarl Warwick books blog at either Blogspot or WordPress, under my works and sometimes under the other categories, I have compilational works that I've created. There's herbal magic or herbal medicine, rather, folk medicine, folk magic. There's demonology, which that one is more academic. I wanted to go into like Sinistrari and some of these others, create a work of primary text documents involving demonology, opinions on the world of hell, effectively, and produce it in an academic manner. There's also one on black magic. If you're more into the practitioner side of it, you wouldn't want the demonology work. You'd want the one with black magic, folk magic, and things like that. And herein of Lady Columbia. Sticks, does one truly not die if they've passed on, say, good teaching and influenced the lives of others in their behaviors? That person's actions echoing through time. Yeah, that's kind of my belief. I believe that if you're known at all, and usually people who have a positive aspect to them, they've healed lepers and stuff, they would be remembered more than some tyrant. And so it is kind of self-serving. Whether the person's motives are self-serving or not is entirely different. Yes, I believe that they do not truly die. I do believe that it's important that when a person is deceased, that other people even think about them. And there are plenty of people in the world for which that's sadly not the case. I believe that gives them occult power. I do not believe in a karmic reincarnation, but I do believe in reincarnation at large, as a principle in general. .gov Gaming. Tried to purchase one of your books recently. It was out of stock. Made me happy to see your success despite the minor inconvenience. Blessing be upon you and congrats on the pregnancy. Thank you very much. I think you're probably talking about the hardcover of the Book of Forbidden Knowledge. I will be probably releasing that in the future. I do apologize for that, but Amazon screwed me algorithmically once I released that. As far as my bestseller, which is the Book of Forbidden Knowledge. Again, something that I never envisioned would happen. When I first released it, I figured, well, this is a pretty good work, but, you know, it'll sell a few hundred copies. Instead, it's been tens of thousands. When I released that, their algorithm, I think, looked at the hardcover copy and saw the price, which is naturally higher. And it compared that negatively to other competing editions. And so it screwed me effectively. So I've got an artist right now working on a bunch of new works, another artist working on a couple of others, and I'll be formulating things in the future. I should probably, just a second here, actually, for people that are interested in it. I wonder if I should link the WordPress or the Gmail. I mean, I'll link Blogspot. For anyone that's interested, I will put this on YouTube, actually, as a pinned comment in chat. Once I get to it, it takes a few clicks. It's a huge problem. No way to get to it quicker. View on YouTube, and I can watch myself speak. It's wonderful. Okay, and then I'll pin it. There is now a pinned message if you're watching on YouTube with a link to my books blog. You can buy all that you want and all that I want. I mean, it is money. It is an income. Shane Boatwright bought 2 copies of 4 CRT book. One for me, one for my parents. Oh, thank you. It's not a cult, though. That one's political. Shikwi Dogemeyer. Sticks, will you be speaking at CPAC 2022? The right is becoming rife with grift. This is not the place for that. This is an occult live stream. This is about magic. But no, I will not be speaking at CPAC, obviously. Sticks' compilation books. Y'all should check us out. We rock. I agree. I think have I done 9 of them, I think, now, and I've got 3 more planned. One's going to be on Eastern religion. China, Japan, some of these other paths. That one's important. Another one's actually going to be on Judaism and Kabbalah, because I've got several more works forthcoming at the moment on that subject. I'll have enough material to sort of build upon that. The Hebraic alphabet system, their numbering system, their usage within spiritual systems, etc., and influence on Christian magic as well, especially in the Renaissance. It's important. So that'll be up. And then probably I'll do a bric-a-brac, like just an occult miscellany work, although I really want to do one on phallicism. But the problem is a lot of the works that I've edited on that subject are full length. So how many can I actually fit in a work of the format that I want? I'm looking into it. I'm seeing what I can do. I'd like to release that as well. Crossover Maniac. Have you ever had a dialogue on occultism to an atheist or skeptic? Yeah, I was called an occultnik, actually, by the spokeswoman, I can't remember, Peggy Nadramia of the Church of Satan, actually, many years ago. I was called an occultnik for even asking about Nicholas and Zena Schreck at the time, who have gone their separate ways and have their separate paths, and they're more or less occult, but a little bit different from the atheistic Church of Satan. I think that was 10 years ago at this point, actually. It might have even been a little bit more. It might have been 12 years ago. Fellatio Raptor. Hey, Sticks, do you think the U.S. government will target the American convoy the same as Canada? Patriot Act to freeze their accounts. Maybe, but again, that's not very spiritual. The U.S. government's not anyway. The people that claim to be religious in the U.S. government, by and large, are atheists anyway. The Dashing Rogue. Speaking of Rudolf Steiner, he looks deathly similar to Jeremy Irons. Question is, math real, platonic, or did we make it up? Useful fiction. Math is real in the pragmatic sense. We use it all the time to create energy, to create houses, to do all sorts of wonderful things. I would lean towards assuming that it's real. It's subjective in the sense that it has no further meaning, but it's objective in the sense of being useful. Gladium Lux. Morning, Sticks. Currently driving home to Mass from Michigan. That's one hell of a fucking drive. Livestream is a perfect pastime for the drive. Thoughts on Thelema, or Thelema, or however you want to pronounce it. I'm not a fan of Crowley myself. I think that it's overhyped. A friend of mine, actually, who goes beyond simply dabbling in the dark arts, said that Crowley effectively, the proof is in the pudding, basically. You can tell that he's full of shit because he died alone with a couple cans of soup to his name. And that is basically true. He died in abject, stark, opium-dazed poverty, and yet people consider him to be very important. I think part of that is propaganda. Part of it is he was working for the British government and others on propaganda. And so to put a long story short, basically he was held up on a pedestal. They didn't care about his actual life, though. Little Derna. Our cats are twins. My vet says this type of cat is mean, especially to other cats. It's true for my cookie. Is your cat mean? One of them is mean to the other cat. And they used to be so sweet. They would lay nose to nose. They would nap together, give each other baths. I haven't done that in a while. Fallout Entertainment Industries. Would you edit my book? It's a book about Fallout 2 combat tactics. It's extremely comprehensive and revolutionary stuff. Probably not, because that's not exactly my forte. Yeah, I generally edit my own works from public domain material. We also have a super chat over on Rumble, where how many people are watching? I can't even fucking tell. I don't even know how many people are watching on Rumble at this point. Rumble has some issues as far as format with regards to live chat. I'm not going to lie, it has some issues. There's about 230 people watching, actually. Here we've got Old Winter King. My Australian state will be rid of all mandates tomorrow. Wish I could say the same for Queensland, which just built another concentration camp, or Victoria, which has had a series of self-immolations. I didn't know about the latter. That's unfortunate. Again, not exactly a cult, but I'll bite here. There's nothing occult about censorship. There's nothing occult about tyranny. They are very, very independent paths. Scott Steiner, the world's greatest ring announcer. Gilgamesh's epic really influenced the Torah and New Testament. Yes, indeed. When you talk about the flood story, and a lot of other fucking shit too, in the Bible, what you're really talking about is the adaptation of Babylonian stories, which are in turn, in many cases, adapted from Sumeria, like Gilgamesh, by the Jews, who didn't have a written system at the time. They had an oral history. They took those stories, they mixed them around, they reinterpreted them according to their own religious dogma. This is, by the way, admitted by Jewish scholars. It's just not admitted by evangelical Christians, mostly. Zim the Despot. How much does the Force from Star Wars, both movies and expanded universe, borrow themes and ideas from the occult? I'm curious on what you think. Maybe in a new agey way, like the idea of, moving things around telekinetically. That's really, we're talking about Victorian occultism, the period of mediums and spirit boxes and things like that. Not much otherwise. The ability to control energy, like as in controlling the weather and things like that, that goes way, way back. You're talking about the witch trials and even times before that. As far as that particular psychic side, it's really 19th century. So it's not older occultism. It's fairly modern. Joshua 2.0. Thoughts on Franz Barden, Initiation into Hermetics, applying the concepts. I have never read that particular work, so I wouldn't know. If I'm going to read Hermetic works, it'll definitely be an original Hermetic work, though. It won't be an analysis, generally speaking. Genghis Tom. Hi, Styx. What do you think about the left-hand path? Well, I'm on it. I do believe in the left-hand path. I don't believe in any objective moral argument against darkness or against force or any of these things. The initial sinister current, sinister as in literally left hand, that's sort of more Eastern really than Occidental. It really is more Hindu than anything else. The idea is that you're using force, using will, you're deviating from simple obeisance. And it's sort of a stand-in, it's a synonym almost for the argument over occultism versus mainline religion when you really think about it. And I've pointed this out. I've made videos on the topic. Mainline religion is for the masses. It's their way of spirituality. And there's no insult there or anything. It's just the way that it is. Occultism, writ large, is for people who want to lead themselves and or lead others. I prefer the former myself. I don't really care about dabbling in what will eventually be civic constructs with other people, and other people take it differently. You either lead yourself or you'll be led. There's no other way to go. I mean, even if you're completely independent, a total hermit, even the ideals that you have, technically speaking, they've either come from your own experiences, your own meanderings into philosophy, or they've been granted to you. So yes, I support the left-hand path because I'm on it. Shattered Worlds. Love your commentary. Do you mind mentioning my psychedelic stoner rock band Shattered Worlds on your show? And unlike Neil Young, you can hear me on Spotify. Well, yeah, psychedelic rock, I guess psychedelia is close enough to occult spirituality, so I can mention that. So Shattered Worlds, available now. You can listen to them. Not strictly spiritual or occult, but yes, the psychedelic played a role in my spiritual beliefs. That's for sure. Loved Morning Glory. Lucas Zupan. You could make a very successful video series or book collection on Tartarian theories. Would be hilarious. Do you do analysis on documentaries? Have I done any? I don't know that I've done any analysis on documentaries. No, actually. Carlos Bazira has donated €1 without any comment. Thank you. Or 1 lira. I'm not exactly sure. My apologies. I'm used to the dollar sign. Marushia Dark. Congrats on the baby. Sucks we can't learn more about that, but I understand your reasons for secrecy. Best of luck to you and Liz in parenthood. Well, thank you very much. And yes, I mean, that's more political. That has nothing to do with spirituality. That's more just the NAP, the right of individual determination. A person shouldn't be dragged into the public square against their will, and a small child doesn't have the wherewithal, doesn't have the mental sense to determine that for themselves. They have to be protected. Smoke Daddy, Jean-Luc Brunel did not kill himself. Yeah, neither did occultists kill him. I know that the Pizzagate thing is still big in some circles. They think that the elites waste their time doing dark rituals which have no pedigree within authentic occultism. No, they're just materialists. Most of these people are atheists as well. Aaron Bennett. Since Trudeau is styling himself a wannabe dictator, do you think Biden will do the same? What's your thoughts concerning Biden renew C-19 state of M? Again, not really spiritual. Has nothing to do with the occult. I think that Trudeau's nuts, but I think Biden's even more nuts at this point. So, Shaqui Dogemeyer. Thoughts on Christianity being based off older myths and religions, i.e. Zoroastrianism and Hindu myth? Anything interesting I can read concerning this? Oh boy, again, go through the books blog that's pinned on YouTube where you're watching. You'll find all sorts of good shit, especially in the academic section, I believe. Christianity is based largely on Judaism, fused with Roman civic ideology. But Judaism is entirely based on Babylonian lore. And Babylonian lore is effectively nothing more than a reinterpretation of Sumerian lore. Sumerian lore, by all accounts, is probably just a reinterpretation of tribal lore that came before it too. So the pedigree there is convoluted. It is slightly complex. But yes, if you're talking about Jesus in the Essene tradition, assuming that this figure existed, I am assuming some Eastern influence. Yeah. Probably from Hinduism, certainly from the Persians, certainly from other groups within that region, and Egypt to an extent. Kennot West, do you think the truckers won? Canadian government is tightening their authoritarian, according to globalist plans. I don't see upsides for the people. Well, Trudeau was forced to use the Emergency Powers Act, but again, that's not occult in nature. I'll still answer non-occult questions and respond to queries, but this is mainly about magic. Forum. Random thought for you. Do you think alchemy was incorrectly partly assigned to chemistry because it was the most advanced understanding at the time and maybe more fitting to electrical theory? It's an interesting question. I think that alchemy comes in two basic forms. It's always shrouded in metaphor. There's alchemy that is effectively spiritual material that masquerades as chemical material. That is, that it's a conversation about angels or demons or reincarnation or something, but it masks itself in chemical metaphor. Or it's a chemical work that masquerades as the former, that talks about all of these different symbols that are quasi-religious in nature. It is, though, largely chemistry. I don't think that the people practicing alchemy in the Renaissance had much of a knowledge of electricity. Maybe a rudimentary knowledge. They understood energy, of course. They understood putting heat or other energies within a system, or sunlight, to tell the truth. They did not have capacitors and batteries and all of these other things. Mustard. Any thoughts or books on spirit animals, spirit guides, and familiars? That's something that's more Mesoamerican, and I haven't encountered as much of it. Most of my interest really in the occult, as far as the more literal side, has been European and Asian to an extent, because that's where a lot of the bulk of the material is. As far as more anthropological works, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff out there, but I haven't run across as many of them. I've been trying to prioritize based on my editing schedule mainly. And so initially it was black magic, alchemy, a few of the big concepts that people really want to hear about, then branching out into religious history, phallicism, certain other things, certainly folklore, and now branching out further. I'll probably get to some works of that in time, but I don't think I have any that particularly cover it at the moment, unfortunately. Voluntary Planet. Have you ever considered having Mark Passio on your show to talk about occultism? Heard of him? Yeah, maybe. That'd be interesting. OMG Puppies. The History and Practice of Magic by Paul Christian was an interesting read, written around 1870. Have you seen it? No, I think the major works as far as basic occultism at large, certainly Ceremonial Magic by Waite, which initially went under a different title, actually, as the Book of, what was it? The Book of Black Magic and of Pacts. So a little bit beyond the pale as far as advertising goes. Some of the grimoires, and then the Black Arts by Cavendish, I think, is another big one. Sir Zorg. My theory on philosophy and spirituality is that the fundamental structure of reality is souls speaking with each other. God speaks to me through my perception, and I speak back to God through my thoughts and actions. Thoughts? Well, I am an apatheist, so I don't have a God or a pantheon or anything like that. I also don't have the absence of one. I've given up on that argument. I think that the spirituality is a little bit beyond the concept of an external God. In the occult, it can be more internalized. Self-improvement, if you will. Crystal Heart, do you have any thoughts on Kundalini? Thank you. Yes, actually, I mentioned this in a book that I wrote long ago called ASMR in the Occult, which is that the serpent fire, the descriptions of the basic premise of Kundalini, actually overlap with that practice too. You can tell how dated this work is because now, of course, ASMR is nothing more than mukbang. So as there's no spiritual component, a lot of the stuff, unfortunately, that I wrote in there that was true in 2015 or 16 is no longer true about the content creation side of these things. I also experienced something that's relatively similar to a Kundalini awakening on mescaline that I used back when I was in college. This would have been 2009 or thereabouts, 2008, something like that. The tingling sensation ascending through the spine, that particular physical component was very, very similar. The spiritual component, I suppose, could be paired with this, of course, on enough psychedelics. People have all sorts of spiritual, religious experiences. I think that the concept of the serpent fire, while I don't believe literally in chakras as they would be explained in Eastern circles or even theosophical semi-Occidental circles, I think it is an interesting concept, and I tie it in more to the psychedelic than anything else. Lord Tennyson's pipe. Greetings, Styx. Om Mani Padme Hum. May all beings find happiness and freedom from suffering in this world. Peace to you and yours. Peace worldwide. Well, thank you for that. What was the other? That's one of the mantras of Hinduism, by the way. Om Mani Padme Hum. Yeah, what was the other one? The Ganesha one. I can't remember how it fucking goes. It's been a long time since I listened to it. I'm being irreverent. Fucking Ganesha. A guy under a bridge. Is human willpower or spirit a force in the occult? Yes, absolutely. If you don't have the willpower, you're not going to do anything, no matter how much enlightenment would come your way. Imagine a person has no willpower. They just don't care. And they're shown all sorts of essential truths about the spiritual. They're not going to do anything with it. It's not going to change their lives, and they're not going to, in turn, change anyone else's life. Now imagine someone has a lot of willpower and they're given a little bit of knowledge. At the very least, they're spreading that little bit of knowledge to many other people and or ingraining it in their personal existence. Simplistic and straightforward, I hope. J.R. Sparker. I just ordered Black Magic and Spirits. Thanks for the recommendation. Knowledge is power. Good one, by the way. Yes, again, there is a pinned comment if you're watching this video on YouTube. There is a pinned comment in chat. And you can go to my books, blogs, and there's a lot of stuff there. I've tried my best to categorize it. Although in the future, once I hit 400 editions, which will be by the middle of this year, I imagine, I'm going to have to make several more categories. Make one just for the Theosophists. Robot Trucker. Thoughts on the Zeitgeist documentary? That one does delve a little bit into religion and spirituality, although it goes a little bit beyond into the strictly hyper-atheist of the 2000s period. Interesting documentary. The first third, I think, is about 9/11. And then there's a bunch about the police state and stuff. And then it delves off almost into a little bit. I can't remember the name of the documentary. There was a documentary on Atlantis. It was in multiple parts. Initially, it was fully on YouTube. They've got a semi-redacted version now. I think it was due to music copyright. Legends of Atlantis. If you can find that one, it's 4 hours plus of material. I think that played a role in what became Zeitgeist, at least in the spiritual sense. The idea of Jesus being based off Mithra and all of these other figures, which is at least partially true, at least in the adaptation and interpretation. So it's an interesting documentary, although most of it's not strictly spiritual. Everton Plaza. Do you think it would be feasible for a theoretical religion to ascribe success to a divine will without it having consistent tenets in a God wills the victor regardless of the method type way? It would work up until the point at which some charlatan or priest decided to say, hey, I can affect the outcome with a ritual, and they happen to be right. The problem is that it would follow the same evolutionary trajectory as spirituality at large. I've talked about Urg the caveman as a metaphor. Urg the caveman is about to go out hunting. His wife pisses him off in the morning. He's leaving the cave. He punches a tree. He goes out. He gets a saber-toothed tiger. He comes back. Of course, his wife is happy about this. Whole tribe eats for a week. Next day he goes out. He's not mad. He doesn't punch the tree. He gets nothing. And if this happens enough time, in Urg's dim mind, and basically people are the same as this now. Really, there's not a huge amount of change, culture aside. Eventually, Urg believes that he realizes that punching the tree is what's causing success in hunting. All that's required is that Urg at one point tell his cave mates about this, and it proves to be true, and pretty soon you've got the punching a tree religion. And the problem with that situation is that you can maintain it up until someone manages to punch the tree at just the right time and prove to other people, of course, through anecdote, that they've got the magical method by which they can escape from the God wills it thing. Now it's not God wills it. Now it's God can be compelled. His opinion can be changed. All you have to do is punch the tree at the right time, or offer enough blood or enough seashells or something. So it would fall apart in due time. And in fact, what you're talking about probably is the basis of religion. The Cancer Man. Sticks, do you think Potato Joe is going to start World War III? Well, then we'd have a different religion, which is the Church of Adam's religion. No, I don't think World War III will start over Ukraine. It'll be a conflict. The United States will look weak because the president's weak. But beyond that, unfortunately, no Church of Adam on the horizon. Bucketbot. Any thoughts on the Bohemian Grove? Do you think the elites who attend believe that they're gaining anything from the rituals that supposedly go on there? We've actually got footage of some of it. We've got testimony from Nixon himself talking about people pissing on trees. No, I think Bohemian Grove is where people who are extremely secular go, they're bored. They've got all the power. Imagine this. It's almost like torture when you think about it. I hate to be even mildly sympathetic, but think about it this way. You've got millions, billions of dollars. You've got lots of fans, lots of power, whatever you've got in the world. But you don't believe in anything. You don't believe there's a hereafter. You're completely secular. Ultimately, all the things you're doing don't matter. So you go and you take part in ersatz ritualism that gives you that same religious thrill that cavemen got when they punched trees. And you go and piss on trees and walk around naked and have orgies and all these other things. It's not a religious ritualism. It's not based in any occultism. It's certainly not based on some ancient mysteries. One of the works I'll be releasing soon on the Eleusinian mysteries, actually, it's not based on that. It's based on a perverted sort of ersatz occultism, if that makes sense. Joshua 2.0, thoughts on Saint Germain, great alchemist, immortal. This particular figure seems to have been a Renaissance man, actually, with many skills, the ability to speak multiple languages, probably just highly intelligent, and like many people in the day, was capable of the chemical act of counterfeiting, and so convinced people he was an alchemist, and would be very, very careful when in public not to eat the wrong foods, not to say the wrong thing, was just very self-aware. In that sense, self-awareness-wise, definitely an occultist. Assuming we assume the actual existence of a specific singular figure called Saint Germain. Can Scourge, what lessons have internalized the most from your study of occult spirituality? Also, thoughts on chaos magic. Chaos magic is cool, but I'm more interested in the academic side of things spiritually. I would say my psychedelic experiences ultimately are the most internalized. Not the things that I saw, the experiences at large, just the general concept of exploring, and then also seeing a demon when I was young. I've spoken about that, specifically Stolas and others. Anti-for-Rumble on Rumble, actually. Sticks fascist bigot should be banned for medical misinformation, COVID conspiracy theories, hate speech, and xenophobia. Very occult over there. I think you're on the wrong platform, though. You should be commenting on Twitch with that opinion. Veneficarius. I saw a white wolf ghost when I was a child, similar to what you described. I was born in 88. It was around 7 years old. Yes, I saw it too. And what I realized, and this is no ship, if you look up Radio Werewolf, the fiery summons, you probably will see the same wolf on the cover of that. You can get back to me and tell me if I'm right. It looks similar to me. I talked to Xena about this actually at one point. I won't disclose private conversations, but I did bring it up and got interesting answers, to tell the truth, with regards to some of these mass magic rituals, which are very similar to the kind of mimetic mass magic that happened in the 2016 election. Just saying. Scott Steiner, the world's greatest ring announcer. For April Fool's Day, it would be funny to dress up as Razor Fist and do a metal mythos on Guar. It could be a special collab with Sleazy. Go subscribe. I know that's not a cult, but it's too funny not to say that's pretty good. That's a good idea. Crossover Maniac. Have you read any of the works of Acharya aka DM Murdoch and her work on astrotheology and Christ myth theory? No, I have not. I'll have to pin that and see about it. Bobby, advice and material to begin exploring occultism. While I recommend all of the compiled works that I've made, again, there's a pinned comment if you're watching on YouTube with my books, blogs. Just go through the sections, and there are a number of compilations, mostly under my works, under that header. I would recommend Black Arts by Richard Cavendish. This is a work from the 70s, actually. It's very comprehensive. It's very good. Ceremonial Magic by A.E. Waite. That one you can get a digital copy of. It's out of print, although there are physical copies available. Occult Significance of Blood by Rudolf Steiner, actually. Steiner, you'd probably pronounce it. And then Occultism for Beginners by William Dower. If you can get those 4 works, then you've got a pretty good starting library. EpicMan004. If I didn't participate in a seance, but was in the same house of one happening, would I have to worry about spirits potentially bothering me? No, because seances don't contact spirits. That is hokum. By the way, Harry Houdini, among those that helped debunk many of the people involved in the mediumship movement, at the end of the 19th, early 20th centuries. Crossover Maniac, question about your belief in reincarnation. Is it some sort of life essence that is recycled with no continuation of consciousness, or do you believe that some part of the personality lives on? While I would prefer the latter, and it's possible under string theory and multiverse theory, which I believe in, I have a feeling not. I have a feeling it's an involuntary continuation because you happen to exist on one existential thread. The problem is, when you die, when your consciousness blanks out of existence, in the infinite span that follows your existence, yours as in your consciousness, anything can happen. Given an unlimited amount of time, it will happen. You will reincarnate. That's my belief. That part is completely secular. That's why it's not karmic. If you reincarnate as something that's not self-aware, again, an infinite amount of time passes, and eventually you become self-aware simply by virtue of random chance. It could be 1 trillion years from now, but it'll pass in the blink of an eye to you because you're not aware of any of these other things. You could reincarnate as another human, or an alien, or a snail, or anything else under the sun. Kenneth West, your opinion on Terence McKenna and his work. Good work overall. Mr. Brown sent $2, no chat, thank you. Mr. Friendly B, I'm a Christian, but recently realized that Yahweh is not God. Jesus is the exact opposite of Yahweh. There were beings with high tech thousands of years ago, not aliens in my opinion, that were confounded with God. Some of these bastards might still be here and mess with us. I don't necessarily believe in the ancient astronaut theory you're presumably referring to. But you'd be right theologically. If you look at the teachings of the Essene, which I believe he was, Jesus, the occult Jesus, versus the Old Testament being called Yahweh, who had a wife named Asherah, of all things. Yeah, they're night and day. They're not the same. They're not really reconcilable. People have chosen to force them to reconcile because of their religious proclivities. Mr. Twisted Frenzy, based question, I'll admit. Basic question, I'll admit. But what do you personally believe happens to us when we die? Afterlife, reincarnation, or just the eternal abyss? I believe that we uncontrollably reincarnate forever. My hope is that there's a kernel of the self remaining. That's what I'd hope. I'd hope that in 1,000 years, another Styx Hexenhammer is vomited out of a cloud somewhere on some other planet and is like a frog dude that carries a spear around and maybe is a bard or something. That would be cool. I don't necessarily agree with that. But I mean, the self would be the same, but it wouldn't have any of the trappings of the former self, because the former self was all built up around culture. It was built up around experiences, but you don't have those experiences anymore. They're completely lost because the physical brain is just a computer that's being decayed and eaten by ants. The Royal Wraith, hey Styx, to what extent do you think the occult influenced the arts and vice versa? Can the occult be used to improve one's artistic talents? I think a lot of the occult trappings within art and music especially would be the biggest one, and film, are inauthentic. They're added to get attention and to sell more albums, to sell more copies of the video. And that's basically just it. It's all it is you threw a pentagram into the music video so the evangelicals would share it out on Facebook and talk about it. Well, you made more money. Why not do that? Nobody else cares. Only people who are severely opposed to that iconography will care. And it doesn't matter if the attention is negative, they've still shared it out. Now, just a moment. I'm going to use the bathroom really quickly, and then we'll get back to some more super chats with this occult special live stream. And right now, let me see first. How many people are watching on Rumble, actually? Yeah, I get almost 500. There's almost as many people watching on Rumble as on YouTube, just to be clear. Join me on Rumble. I think link in the description. Not 100% sure, actually, on this particular upload. I will be right back after I take a leak. It's a very occult leak, though. I have returned. Let's get to some more super chats. Anamander Rake. Theosophy is just westernized Hinduism. In my experience, people's spiritual paths are just desperate attempts of escapism. That's not the way my spiritual path is. I'm not trying to escape from anything. Life is pretty cool. That being said, I do believe, based on my personal experiences, my personal philosophy, my looking into things, I do believe that there's something beyond the mundane. And keep in mind, if you went back 200 years, what would be beyond the mundane? Most of the technology we have today would be. The idea of communicating with a person at a distance was unknown to people. They would consider it magic. It's the same thing. Let's see. Prometheus Unbound. Opinion is on Guido von List. Appreciate your genius. I've heard of the name, but I'm not actually sure who that is. Arnett23me. Hey Styx, you seem to be enjoying these live streams lately. Have you thought about doing just one big live stream to discuss the topics in your videos? I have thought about moving from a standalone video style, at least on YouTube. I like doing the one-offs elsewhere. I have thought about doing that for YouTube, moving to a live streaming format. There are significant problems with this. Number one, I'd get dragged down in Superchat, so I wouldn't be able to focus as much. I wouldn't be able to do the rant thing as much. Number two, in many cases, there are specific topics that I think are of import, like today with Russia and Ukraine. I don't want to put that in a live stream. I've only got so many tags to use for searchability purposes. It wouldn't make any sense. It'd make more sense on YouTube than other sites maybe, but then I'd have to make those one-offs anyway for all of the other sites. RoboDad, do you think the multi-headed gods and angels, etc., are higher dimensional beings expressing themselves in a lower dimension, a la Carl Sagan in his third versus second thought experiment, and we see their true form? I think that they are human renditions of the concept of the spiritual. That is, that they've hyperbolically elaborated upon human attributes or animal attributes or plants or whatever, and they have effectively made art and, in some cases, elaborate stories about these figures that they've drawn. They're just trying to understand the world, but I mean, that understanding comes from 5,000 to 6,000 years ago in some cases. We've got a couple of super chats over on Rumble, if I can get to them. CKN Chaser, apologies if you have touched on this before, but in your opinion, are dreams considered a category of occultism? No, dreams themselves are not. Those are psychological. Dream interpretation, and certainly lucid dreaming, which I had actually the other night briefly. Yeah, those could be occult in nature. When you get that weird floaty feeling where you're semi-aware of yourself and you're like, oh shit, it's quite something. And Old Winter King sent an archived link to the first report of self-immolation on Twitter. Victoria's PM Dan Andrews shenanigans are a decent rabbit hole to remind yourself that other people have it worse than you. Lots of self-immolation among monks in Burma and other people as well. Back over to YouTube. The Kiefer 522. Do you think human consciousness should be a part of quantum realm or has the quality of being accumulatively directed by experiences lived? I think human consciousness is easily explained in more mundane terms. That is, the brain is a computer. What I think, though, is that when you have that level of self-awareness, in the abstract sense, you're no longer just experiencing the things around you. You're capable of thinking about things far off. You're capable of communicating about things at a distance. I think that goes beyond the strictly physical. I think that that consciousness is reserved. Whether it's reserved for lower life forms, I honestly can't say. I do believe in evolution. I don't have any problem with reconciling the potentially string theory related concept of karma, of reincarnation, with the idea that we came from bacteria effectively. I don't think that these things can't coincide at all. Vault of the Future. Thoughts on Alan Watts? Happy 2/22/22. Alan Watts, I think, isn't he the New Ager that delves into a lot of Buddhism and things like that? I may be entirely wrong. If I am, you can mention that to me. By the way, I just had massive deja vu. Sigilstone 17. If we find out the rich really do practice occult rituals, what kind of reckoning will the world have with magic obviously being real? Well, just because the rich and powerful, you know, I guess purportedly sacrifice people or animals and do crazy shit doesn't mean that the occultism is real. Certainly not in any philosophical sense. It just means that the ritualism is real. Well, fuck, how is it different from going to church? That's a real human ritualism. It also has no effect. Praying to your deity, I hate to tell the religious people out there, praying to your deity will not work. If it did work, then different fighting groups of people praying about the situation to the same God to gain some sort of upper hand over the other group of people, at some point we would expect to see an effect. Jim Morrison, people of color, is a term using French collectivist language astroturfed on us by commie college professors. It subverts the English individualist language used 50 years ago. Is this occultism? There is occult propaganda and memetics, but yeah, probably not on that particular issue. Being asked by Blaster Clone on Twitch, shouldn't he be an affiliate by now? I have not tried to become one. I don't know. I don't even understand the process for it, honestly. I don't care. Fire Critch, I got drunk at a Revolutionary War reenactment and slept with a 50-year-old pagan. She stole my shirt, and then I had to leave for waking up the camp. Am I now cursed, and or was she the devil? Chaos always. No, I think that you should have had a couple of less drinks at the Revolutionary War reenactment. I hope at least, hopefully it was honey mead or something they would have drank back then in the 1700s. Sir Zorg, with my last question, I was hoping you would focus more on the structure of reality part than the monotheism. Let's see, which question was that, Mr. Zorg? I'll try to find it here. It may have gone past, in all honesty. My apologies, but this is, I am using StreamYard. It has its limitations, not going to lie. Just before I fucking... Where is it? Yeah, I don't see it at all. I'm trying my best. Jeez Louise, Steve. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I can't even find your comment, I think. I don't know. The structure of reality part than on monotheism. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't find the comment up there. If it's a super chat. Mr. Friendly Bee, those ancient beings with high tech weren't aliens, but a previous degenerate generation of human beings with a long lifespan that played with us and are still messing with our history and politics. Yeah, some believe so. I happen not to myself. I don't really consider that side of things, like the alternate history and or even ancient aliens thing. I don't consider that to be a cult per se. The crappy robot, hashtag COVID is not gone, was trending, but no one is saying COVID is gone. They are saying we should live with it and get on with our lives. Yeah, again, that has nothing to do with magic, though. Artificer Joni, have you read the Kalevala? Kalevala, sorry. Do you think it links to Hyperborea mentioned by ancient Greeks? I have a copy of that I have not read yet, so I'll get back to you in the future. Fire Critch, it was cherry bounce. I think there's more chats here. Over on Rumble, Confederate Heritage Project. Thanks for the content. I have watched your videos every day for the past 2 years. Well, thank you for that. And EpicMan004. Why are white supremacists attracted to paganism? I think you'll find more of them are attracted to Christianity than anything else, actually. And I mean, it's not a blot upon paganism. Some pagan paths were traditionally tribally among people that happen to be white. You could say African animism is also a form of paganism. Hinduism is technically a form of paganism. That was not pioneered by people of European diaspora. It was pioneered by people from the subcontinent. You could say the same in at least a modified form about Japanese spiritual systems, certainly Chinese ancestor worship and their traditional religions, and other groups of people as well. The term paganism only, it has a meaning in the general parlance, but the meaning that's attached to it sometimes is a little bit messy when we think about it. A lot of times people think it especially applies to the Norse and to Greeks and Romans. They don't think about how it applies to African tribes or any of these other groups of people. Jim Ray 3 over on Rumble saying that I am a clown. Interesting. You should debate the point, only I wouldn't justify it. Hugh McGloin. Do you see Townsend's 18th century cooking channel? No, I haven't actually. 18th century cooking sounds good. Let me look that up actually. 18th century cooking. Oh, I think that I accidentally put your comment on the screen as well. Interesting. Well, you got something extra there. Yeah, me and Liz like to watch cooking channels sometimes, so maybe that's something worth watching. Yeah, I got it pulled up there. We'll see 18th century cooking. Yeah, that looks interesting. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. The Intern of War. Hey, Styx, have you dug into Bactria history? The mixing of Greek cultures, it jumped here, and God and Buddhists' teaching would make a good video or book for you to study. Yeah, no, I haven't really looked into that so much, no. I do like Greek religion. Buddhism is of interest, but generally, there are some people who think that it's like the end-all be-all of wisdom, these glorious monks with their Buddhism. I'm not so sure, my dude. I'm not so much into it. I've already looked through enough Buddhism to know it's not for me. I mean, if I'm going to do an Eastern religion, I prefer Hinduism. I consider that wiser than Buddhism. Sigil Stone 17. If the rich practicing magic does nothing, well, how many data points clearly evidence something lending supernatural assistance to these weirdos? Literally nothing. They're like vampires. They siphon and parasitize human tendencies. They more understand, I think, biology and evolution than magic. In fact, I don't think that they waste their times with what the average person would consider stage magic. The kind of mass ritual, eyes wide shut thing that they perceive the elites as participating in isn't even really occultism. It's a floor show. It's theatrical. It's more like Houdini. I don't think that other than basic entertainment value, like at Bohemian Grove, I don't think that they involve themselves with it. They're way too busy making money. Johnny Azul, your voice is so soothing. I listen to your videos to help me sleep sometimes. Thank you. Nice way of saying that I'm boring. I jest. Thank you very much. Maybe I'll become an ASMRtist or something. A true occultist. I will awaken the Kundalini fire within you. By the way, I actually mentioned in the Steiner work, well, one of them, which one is it? The Way of Initiation that I'm editing right now. I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. So I'll probably have that and the paired work, Steiner's first and second major works, actually ready by the end of the month, but they won't be available till March, along with a bunch of others, because again, it takes my artist time. She hasn't even chosen a pen name yet, so it'll take a little bit of time for that. St. William on Rumble saying, hell is mentioned in the Bible at least 15 times. Misleading. It depends on what your term for hell is. If you mean Gehenna, yes, it's mentioned multiple times. If you're talking about Revelation and the lake of fire, yes. But the latter doesn't exist yet, according to biblical canon, number one. And Gehenna actually is a Jesus reference, and it refers to the trash pit outside of Jerusalem where trash was burned. The idea, the metaphor about Gehenna is that the saying was effectively, if you were wicked, if you were outside of godliness, if you weren't charitable, if you didn't lead a chaste, godly life, your soul was no better than trash to be obliterated in Gehenna. And of course, they didn't realize all the atoms are preserved. When you burn something, they figured, well, I've burned this chair. It's just ashes now. The rest of it, its form has gone away. The idea was that you would disappear. You wouldn't necessarily suffer for an extended period. You just stopped existing. That was the whole point of Gehenna. And that's most of the references. It's just like the idea of the use of the term Lucifer that I alluded to formerly. Lucifer does not apply just to Satan. It's used once for Satan, the old serpent. It's used once for a dead Babylonian king, and it's used once for Jesus Christ. Lucifer is light bearer, the light of illumination, or whatever metaphor happens to be used at that particular time. Only once does it refer to Satan in the literal sense of glowing, being fiery, being illuminated, or being on fire literally. But if you didn't study anything about Latin or ancient Greek, you wouldn't understand these things. And the Catholics that spread the concept of this hell, this purgatory of theirs, and these other Christian groups, they were counting on the fact the lay people were illiterate. They didn't know what the fuck was going on. This is the case in many religions. Same within Islam and Judaism, by the way, and Hinduism to an extent. You should see how many little 1999 Hanuman statues you can buy if you watch Hindi TV. It's televangelism. I swear that right now India is going through the 1980s. It's a little bit nostalgic. It's like if I understood Hindi, I think I'd have a great time watching it. Twisted Logic Gaming, Wizards for Life, Meme Magic, Sticks Play, Dwarf Fortress. How many wishes per second are you getting? Dwarf Fortress actually looks really, really fun. The problem is I have no idea how to play it. I literally don't understand. It's designed like an 80s computer game. I don't fucking get it. It looks good. The basic idea is superb. Bitter Lake sent $1. No comment. Thank you very much. Comic Toby 420. Do you know more than the spirit Native American? I don't know exactly what you're asking. Do I know more about Native American spirituality? As someone who supposedly is part Abenaki, I guess the great spirit's inside me too. But I've studied it in the basic sense. But a lot of the works that I lean towards are more European and Asian diaspora, in all honesty, and then some African anthropology, actually. You got to understand when we're talking about the golden age of occult study, we're talking about the middle of the 19th through the early 20th centuries. What cultures were of interest, especially to the people that lived then? India was a big one. British Empire marches in, they take over India, the subcontinent at large. They're studying everything related to Hinduism. You have a great deal of material in English about that. Buddhism, to an extent, certainly. Certain Arabic religions, although not mainline Islam very much, only the superstitious aspect. Certain Mesoamerican tribes were of interest. The American authors that did at large the smaller tribes of North America are more scant. And a lot of times they happen to be Freemasons. I've released several works on Indian Freemasonry, actually, where the main idea was, hey, they had lodges, they had initiatory systems, and basically Freemasons, brothers under another mother. I've released 2 works on that. I don't think I have a single work on mainline anthropology when it comes to native lore at large, except from Central and South America, from the larger, the empire tribes, you could call them. The Kiefer 5222, 200 years from today, all shall be complete. Mwahahaha. Yeah, possibly. Mr. Friendly Bee, Sticks, what occult knowledge would you think might positively influence the future of humanity if it was widespread? I think if people understood that reincarnation was reality, whether you were secular or not, then the world would change a bit, yeah. I think if people realized that they wouldn't simply stop existing, if they didn't have that potential bereavement of a purpose to live, and they realized, hey, I don't have anything to fear from death, I'm no longer afraid of dying, I think that could be positive, yeah. Or it could be very negative. Hey, if I'm not going to die, I can do whatever I want. It could be a double-edged sword, depending on who interprets it. Kenny Williams, what is your opinion or knowledge on the Philosopher's Stone? Also, what is your opinion on adrenochrome? Have you personally tried it or other concoctions? No, I have not drank the brain fluid of infants. Just to be clear, I'm not interested in getting prions. As far as the Philosopher's Stone, when we're talking about alchemy, there are multiple stones of the philosophers. One is elixir. That is the universal medicine, or alkahest, Ixir. It goes under different names, under different titles. Another is a compound. It's not really a stone. It's a formula that can convert things into gold. What it appears most often to have been actually is a concoction of material that would make it look like it was gold. So you would add other metals to it. It would effectively plate them, pyrotize them, or depending on the preparation, there were multiple. and it was involved in counterfeiting. The biggest one, though, was the elixir, the immortal elixir, and the immortal lights, actually, of Trithemius, which appears to be some sort of interaction that would be similar to modern glow sticks. This was considered miraculous, ever-burning lights. The immortal elixir, in some cases, as with Hollandus, was lead-based, or possibly antimony. It depends on how you interpret elements of the text. Yes, as far as having a sweet savor to it and causing sweating and certain other symptoms that they considered medicinal, I'm sure it worked well. They also took this material, they would dissolve it in wine and inject it into wounds. I'm not sure how antimicrobial lead is, but wine may be a little bit better depending on the kind of wine. They also used to boil wine in lead to make it more sweet, by the way. So yes, I have not tried adrenochrome because it's a meme. In fact, it's like tulpas or something. As far as the Philosopher's Stone, it really depends on which stone we're talking about because there are several of them. Bacchus. Why do I feel like every 1,000 years we go from democratic to spiritual and vice versa, Roman to Christian, Christian to democracy? So I guess a new religion should be coming anytime soon. Well, democratic and spiritual aren't at odds with one another. They can be overlapped or not overlapped. I don't know exactly what that would mean. Then the Christian tradition, certain among the Christians were very democratic. You look at the early Protestant movements, other than the oppression, moving away from sort of the heavy-handed church authority, I would argue that that's quasi-democratic at least. Mr. Friendly B, Sticks, where is Lucifer used to design Jesus? Look up Phosphoros. I don't have the exact verse. It's used at one point to talk about Jesus, I believe, shining in the clouds, if I remember correctly, shining in the sky. But it's Phosphoros in the original Greek. It is translated to Lucifer. Phosphoros and Lucifer are synonymous, Greek to Latin. They're exactly the same. But they retained it as a proper noun. That's the problem. It's also used for, I think, Melchizedek. I can't remember exactly. Comic Torby 420. Do you feel connected to the spirit of the land? Yeah, I like being in gardens and in wild spaces. I like it better than being in society by and large. Amy Durden 83 on Twitch. Can you speak on how people like Saul Alinsky and Skull and Bones have used Lucifer or illumination for evil? Well, the symbol of illumination that these societies use is typically one of the idea that they have some sort of truth that other people don't have. That's the long and short of it. It doesn't mean that it has to do with Lucifer as in Satan, and it doesn't deal with authentic occultism. It's a little bit of knowledge, and a little bit of knowledge is very, very dangerous. You give someone the enlightenment, hey, most of the people around you are basically drones. They can be manipulated very easily. Basic psychology can tell you how to do it. They respond to colors, they respond to certain musical notes, they respond to every biological stimuli. If you can control reproduction and a few other things, you can effectively make them do whatever you want. Give this knowledge to someone who's corrupt, someone who's evil. They'll do corrupt and evil things. They'll use that knowledge. They're not going to use it to enlighten people and say, hey, you know, you're basically being a lemming. You're in darkness, quite literally. You can take that biblically if you want to. You're in darkness. You're being misled constantly. Everything that you do is misled. You're not even living for yourself. You don't even know what self is. They're not going to do that. They're going to say, hey, I can get this person like a slave, a la the Sumerians, to work 40 hours a week. I can take most of what they make. I can control their reproductive drive. I can control what they imbibe. I can control what they think is healthy or unhealthy, what they think is right and wrong. I can make them a golem. I can make them a slave. This is the danger of a little bit of knowledge. There are plenty of people out there that claim to be occultists that operate on the same procedural guidelines. Self-proclaimed gurus will tell you how you can get rich. Well, they know that the average person want that. And they're saying, hey, if I give $5 for this book, it's not a big expenditure. And he's saying he can make me millions. Wow, what a return. It's horse shit. It's snake oil sales. TGH, thought on Falun Gong and Qigong. Falun Gong, you know, like organ harvesting in China. I have no particular spiritual thoughts with regards to them. I do know that they are a persecuted minority over there in areas of Manchuria. Comic Toby 420, did you receive the spirit through rite or ritual? Through rite. It came to me. I didn't do anything particularly to see demons or anything like that. I made a video long ago on the different kinds of occultists that touched on that basic premise. The Royal Wraith. Will use of psychedelics ever become mainstream? Oh, hell no. The government wants to legalize weed to make people more lazy and eat more Twinkies. Is anyone pushing to legalize LSD or mescaline? Other than those that are natives. Those people are special. They're allowed to take peyote and it won't affect them badly. If you take it, you're a threat to society. Think about the double standard and what that really means. Then you'll have your answer. Brian Svart, would you agree that religion in any form is pre-designed to comfort the living? No, I would believe that it's pre-designed to control the masses, generally. I hate to sound like Karl Marx here, but on religion, he's not far from the truth. It's not the opiate of the masses, it's the placebo. Teresa Logue Meeks, love your videos. Considering social media is probably a long-standing trend, it still may not last forever. What are your plans for the future? Well, if social media dies completely, I can still do a lot of work. Most of my income comes from books, not from social media posting. And it will still exist, I believe, for the future. It's just like telephones still exist. They've been largely replaced as far as a communications medium, but they're still there in modified form. Social media, I think, will do the same. Hell, there are still people that use shortwave radio. Television. Well, television is not a great example. That's certainly dying, but it's become on demand. Oh, it's morphed. The basic premise of the technology is the same. The function, the actual pragmatic usage is totally different. It'll be the same for social media. It's just it'll become maybe more controlled over time, but there will always be alternatives. We're in a different era from, hey, you have to lay down physical cable. Yeah. Visigoth, I was eating chips and now my keyboard is greasy. Damn you, weed. Yeah, that can be a big problem. I used to smoke weed. It never gave me any philosophical insights at all. I used psychedelics. Those gave me some insights. Disclaimer, I'm not encouraging you to use any illegal or unsafe substance. Believe it or not, I have to legally say that if I mention psychedelics, even if some of them are completely harmless. As in, there's no addiction potential. Yeah, try overdosing on LSD sometime. See how much money you pay. You got $100,000 lying around, maybe you can accomplish it. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time. Comic Toby 420, I just left the casino in California, US. That's why I'm talking great spirits and eagles. Oh, casinos. I don't think I've ever been in a casino in my life. I'm not really, I don't like the idea of like flashing lights and loud noises and a bunch of people milling around is exactly the opposite of what I seek. I'd rather go off into some sycamore grove somewhere where there's no other person for 10 miles and just sit there and think. Preferably with a Wi-Fi connection, but be a lot more peaceful anyway. Lucid and alive. Styx, you project a strong confidence in your predictions and worldview. How do you cultivate this form of self-assuredness? Is it occult in nature? Partially. I do believe in my core beliefs, in my core views, and in the core rightness or righteousness of what I'm doing. I have my work that I do. My books are for occult purposes. My other content creation is at least tangential to that. I believe that no matter where I'm led, whether good or bad happens to happen, ultimately it was going to happen. I don't believe in fate, but I do believe in guidance. I don't believe that things are predestined, but I think that you can be led to them. And I just go hither wherever I'm led, so to speak. Or not led, but guided in some sense. Sedukar, 7th Legion. How do you enlighten people without talking down? All you have to do is tell them, look, you were fooled too. I know I was fooled. I used to be a liberal. So politically speaking, the elites had fooled me as well into believing that globalism was a fundamentally good idea. Now I get to tell people, hey, it's not a good idea. It's slavery. It's slavery without the visible manacles. And that's the only difference. And the same people that are making that money, they'll sell you every god under the sun. They don't care which one it is, as long as you're paying them for that godliness. It's basically like the steroid version of televangelism. again, which has branched out into the Hindu world and others as well. It's within Islam as well now too. These people for $19.99 will sell your soul. I mean, will save your soul. Well, they'll sell it too, but for a certain price, they'll help you. How is that different from some snake oil salesman that would take watered down brandy, put some juniper or some other herb in it 150 years ago and sell it to people as a miracle tonic and have some Confederate in the crowd rub it on their supposedly disjointed limbs and all of a sudden they could dance the dervish? It's no different. It's the same thing. Mr. Friendly Bee, what do you think is or are the most dangerous things for the future of humanity? And what can we do at our personal levels? Epidemic, disease. Nature is far better at wiping out humans than humans are. Just look at COVID. This was lab grown by and large. It only kills, honk honk percentage of people as opposed to the plague. There you go. Now wait till the next outbreak of pneumonic plague if you want to see human suffering, and we'll see how long people's faith, by the way, in organized religion lasts. The Renaissance was partially predicated on people basically tossing out the priests after they failed to do anything during the Black Plague. That'll happen again, maybe not in our lifetime, but at some point. Spartan chuckles, Canada has fallen, but can it get up? That's the real question. F YouTube 10.5. Do you believe in karma or anything similar to it? No, I don't believe in objective right and wrong in the karmic and spiritual sense. Right and wrong, by and large, are a combination of pragmatism. So, you don't want to murder people because then someone's been taken out of the genetic pool. You don't really need that to happen. You've reduced survivorship. You've orphaned someone potentially. You don't want rape and things like that. But that's human. That's pragmatic. As far as karma, it's not pragmatic. It's purely spiritual. No, I don't believe in it at all. Comic Toby 420. I watched the Ukraine video today. Would you tweet or message Vlad? Do you mean Vladimir Putin? That'd be funny. Hey, Vlad, I just wanted to chat with you. I figured I'd send you a DM. I mean, I know you're busy, dude, but, I've got a live stream going on. You should check it out. I hope that that's what you're alluding to, because that would be so funny. I'm assuming you mean somebody. Do you mean Varg? That's possible. Tara Smith's Kitchen found you on Rumble. Signal is better for you, YouTube at the moment. I made cooking, trucking, and Second Amendment videos. Also live chats. Love the show. So yes, Tara Smith's Kitchen you can check out there. I wonder if there's any occult recipes. There should be like a magical recipe book, like something for like recipes that were mentioned in grimoires or something. Note to self, please write such a book. Sadukar 7th Legion, you talk and explain so much so well. Cat cakes. I don't know what that means, but thank you for the compliment. The good stuff. What is your thought on Jordan Peterson's view of the Bible? I haven't watched so much of that. I know he followed me on Twitter for a while. He unfollowed me and I got insulted. I got salty about it, and not salty cracker. I'm just joking. I have no problem with Jordan Peterson. Although, I mean, he obviously eats more than just raw steak. Otherwise, he'd be dead. Tyler Knox, do you think our government will slowly clean up all the fear-mongering before the rest of the public figure it out? I don't think that they want to clean up the fear-mongering. By the way, keep in mind, religion is basically the same thing. Now, spirituality, I'm not talking about theism. I'm only talking about organized religion that wants your paycheck. Before anyone does the lay tips fedora meme. Vrishnik Gupta, have you ever chanted any mantra sticks? Yes, indeed, I actually have. I find them helpful. I'm not sure whether I believe that they invoke some deep spiritual power, but they can be focusing, yes. I think it was the one Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, I believe was the main one. There's several versions of it on YouTube, by the way. Sigilstone 17, nature better at destruction than humans? Like hell it is. Fire the nukes. We'll show that strumpet gay who's boss. Yeah, but cockroaches would actually survive. But without all of the human refuse left over, when everyone's immolated by the nukes, there'd be nothing for the cockroaches to eat. Vicious, your thoughts on the left-hand path? Thanks. Yes, I already explained that due to a previous chat. I am technically on the left-hand path. I don't believe in the good and bad sort of thing that's posited by most spiritual systems. I practice literal magic, commune with literal demons, actually, or at least one demon, and have no problem admitting it. Have for 10 years now, so. It's funny because there are some people who have a problem with that. I'm like, you're watching my channel. I was a subscriber for 5 years until I found out that you talked to a demon once. Like, what? Oh, geez. Trying to explain this. Like, I don't want to alienate or ridicule anyone, but, you know, it's not like a hidden thing. Sadakar, 7th Legion, last chat, not rich. Is Canada forcing people to BC? British Columbia? Now, there are worse places to be, you know. It's more moderate, certainly, than where I'm from, because it's West Coast. They'll have an earthquake at some point that'll destroy their society. But Comic Toby 420, is Vlad bought and paid for by the Russian mob? No, the Russian mob is just an auxiliary branch of the Russian government anyway. Just like the Italian mafia is auxiliary to the Vatican. This happens with street gangs, too. They're auxiliary to their own ghetto neighborhoods. Vorpal Bite. What does a demon voice sound like? James Earl Jones? No, that's another Hollywood thing. That has to do with the limits of technology in early horror movies, believe it or not, more than anything else. No, a real demon voice is more incoherent and insane than that. Sound more like static. It sound like sort of the demon voices you'd get in cheesy B-movies from the 2000s, actually. Adonis Adams. For magical recipes, try kitchen witchery. I don't mean Wicca. I mean actual magic. But I kid. Anyway, here, I think that I will go offline. I've been streaming for almost an hour and a half here. Oh, but actually, we have another, I think, on Rumble. Yes. Confederate Heritage Project. Do you think the Knights Templar worship Baphomet, or that the Catholic Church feared they had too much power? I'm a Protestant, but I find the history of the Catholic Church interesting. No, that was an excuse by the Catholic Church for persecution. Hey, they worship the devil. They got all these weird pagan symbols that happened to be there to begin with because they digged through the ruins. Yeah, so there's a statue there the Catholics wouldn't canonically appreciate. No shit. It's an archaeological dig. It was just an attempt to take back the land that the knights there had gained. That was pure politics, like everything else the fucking Catholic Church does. And Bacchus, occultism and psychology, same thing. No, because there's something real in occultism. Psychology is mostly a pseudoscience, actually. Mr. Friendly Bee sticks. When I was talking about the most dangerous threats for the future of humanity, I was thinking about political, sociological, or spiritual threats. Oh, I thought you meant just in general. My apologies. Yeah, nuclear war would be near the top of the list. I think psyops and censorship arguably is worse, because imagine you don't kill a huge population, you just enslave them. And even better, you get them to like their chains. Well, that's far worse. It's a worse fate than death. You've captured them without a shot fired. That's what the globalists are trying to do, by the way. And the Kiefer 522. Have you read the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche? Very interesting read. Check it out if you haven't already. No, I have not. Although I like Mingyur Rinpoche's guided meditation. It's very ASMR producing, by the way. For those of you that are into that, it's more authentic than the mukbangs, at least. Okay, anyway, I'm going to go offline because we're at almost an hour and a half. So I thank you all for participating here. I'm thinking about doing more occult live streams, actually, in the future. This, for a non-political stream, got a pretty good attention. So, yeah, I'll go off now. And I will be checking out that Townsend's channel as well, linking it over to Liz in a few minutes. That's about all. Peace out.